Thanks for joining us today, guys. As you know, we like to talk about everything and anything. And today we are here with a horror story, with a furnace and AC rental horror story. If you don't want to spend $28,000, you're going to want to watch this video. It is super informative, and I have never, throughout my whole 16-year career, heard a story like this. You're not going to want to miss it. Join me and Glen and Laura Calhoun and their story about renting a furnace and an AC from a local company. All right, Glen and Laura Calhoun. Okay, they're all silent L's, right? Guys, I just want to thank you guys for coming today, okay? And I know the story has been devastating for you guys, and it's created a lot of stress within the household. But the hope is, through this podcast, is that we can create awareness for other people, and we can give them a checklist if anything like this happens to them. And it's going to be a cautionary tale for a lot of people. So your downfall can be somebody else's hope, okay? So that's the whole idea here. So we will get into it. Let's be honest, leave everything on the table, and let's get started. So for those of you guys out there that don't know, we are going to talk about rental furnaces and air conditioners today and the experience that the Calhouns have had. So let's get started. Tell us how it began.
How it began, phone call. We got a phone call from a company, KW Home Energy, servicing HVAC systems, air conditioners,
tankless
water heaters,
HEPA filters,
all kinds of things they called us about. And we were interested in a tankless water heater.
So it was a cold call, or the
cold call? No, they called us.
Okay.
And
on the phone first.
Yeah. And they, I was interested in the tankless water heater. We had a few years prior to that gone to Reliance, asked them if they'd put in a tankless water heater, and they said that they couldn't because they had venting problems. So when I heard that this company was willing to talk about that, we agreed to have a meeting with a sales rep.
Okay.
So we set up a meeting for 6 o'clock, I think it was, on a
Friday night.
And we had dinner. Salesman didn't show up until after 8 o'clock. He walks in, and this is the part that really bothers me more than anything. He walks in and he says, unsolicited, I'm one of the owners of KW, and my BMW's in the shop being fixed. That's why I'm driving a Honda. I mean, it really was irrelevant to anything, but it made us believe, oh, this guy's a bigwig with the company, so whatever he tells us is probably going to be true.
And in retrospect, that might have been a red flag for you.
Yes, and it was for my wife.
Okay.
Not so much for me. This guy was anyway. So he sits down and he's going through all of his tankless water heater and the advantages, and then he says, "What do you use now?" And we said, "We use Reliance." And he said, "Oh, and what do you pay every month for Reliance?" So
$146 a month for a package deal for the
furnace and the
air conditioner.
So you already had a rental furnace and an air conditioner through Reliance.
Correct.
Yes.
And how was that?
Good.
Fine.
That was a good experience.
Yeah, very good experience.
So he said, "What do you pay?" So we told him, and he said, "Well, I can save you $86 a month." Oh, okay, for the same things. Oh yeah, we'll put in a heating and cooling heat pump.
Yep.
I didn't know what heating and cooling heat pump. I assumed that replaced our furnace and our air conditioner. And we'll put in a tankless water heater, and I'll throw in for nothing a HEPA filter.
So furnace, AC, tankless water heater, HEPA filter for $86 less than what you were paying with Reliance.
What we were paying.
Essentially what he said was, with this new system that they were offering, it would replace the use of the furnace, and we wouldn't need our air conditioner anymore.
Okay.
So in the contract that he was writing up, first line on there said that they would be responsible. They would cancel the contract with Reliance because essentially we wouldn't need it anymore.
Yeah.
And they would look after removing Reliance's equipment and returning it directly to Reliance. So we thought,
At no cost
okay,
to
that
us.
sounds
Yeah,
pretty
that's
good.
nice, right? They're
Great.
doing the dirty work for you.
Yeah.
They were also going to throw in $1,000
Rebate.
that we would have in 30 days, which took, I don't know how many months.
90 days.
90
and
days,
there was an
many
awful
phone
lot
calls.
of, many phone calls and emails and fighting with them. And
So the guy the sales rep who came in wasn't the owner.
No.
Okay.
we found out
He
after
was
the
fired
fact.
2 weeks after he sold us our goods.
So I know, I mean, I'm familiar with Reliance Rental Products, okay, and I know that they always have, someone can assume those contracts. So if you
Yep.
sell, then they can assume it, and that's the same case here.
And that's what we assumed. In fact, Laura asked after he'd done his spiel and we were agreeing to the contract, and he was saving us $86, and they were going to look after canceling the contracts, returning all of the products, $1,000 bonus, rebate. And
There was also a $149 administration fee.
he was going to waive it. So he waived that, which we ended up paying, because
Yeah.
you can't waive it. So after we had agreed to all of this, and he'd written on the back of the contract what we were currently paying, how much we were going to save, and Laura says, because I said, I'm retiring, and we're going to be moving to Alberta, so we're really doing this, hoping they'll help sell our home.
Yeah.
And Laura said, I was standing behind her, I'll never forget, she said, is this all transferable? And he gave me a look, and I should have thrown him out. There was something in the way that he looked at me
Yeah.
for a second, and then he paused and he said, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we went, oh, okay, good. This is good.
And those little tells too. You obviously like your intuition tells you one thing, right? Your spidey senses kick in, but you don't really realize that until after, right?
I'm just getting back into the bedroom now, actually.
Yeah.
She was so freaking pissed at me.
Right. So just a cautionary tale for anybody out there. So then tell us. So you signed the contract right there, okay, with the owner of KW Heating and Cooling, okay. Now, how long after did everything start?
2 weeks when we got the first bill from Reliance.
Yes. So this,
A week.
it was May 24th that Friday evening, I believe it was May 24th of 2024. And we had signed the deal that night, and I believe it was the Sunday night, the 26th, that I remember thinking, doing an installation on a Sunday, okay,
They were in a real hurry to get
They were
everything in.
yes, they were. And again, red flag that after the fact, we started to think, They stayed until 1 o'clock in the morning. And I remember coming down, Glen was sitting on the couch waiting up for them. And I remember coming down saying, why are they still here at 1 o'clock in the morning in our home? You know, it just struck me as this company, this is odd. Why aren't they doing this during regular business hours? But then I was trying to give it some credit thinking, okay, like these guys are, you know, they're hard workers. And it was an independent company that they were using to bring in.
So the KW had another company installed.
It was a contractor.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so a separate contractor installed, but the sales rep wasn't there.
Nope.
Just like one or two guys.
No.
He called us often, gave us his numbers. Any problems, give me a shout.
Yeah.
And that's when we got a bill from Reliance.
So June the 12th.
So hold on, back up. So they were there. So they were there from when to when installing?
They were there. They installed it on the 26th of May.
Yeah.
And they had arrived in the morning, late morning, I believe. And they had told us it was going to take a good solid 8 hours or so.
Okay.
And okay, so fine, no problem. Then it started getting into the early evening and kind of thinking, okay, like obviously, and we would go down periodically and just check in with them. And they looked like they were
working hard.
They were working
Yeah.
hard, no question about it. And the end result, the installation, the quality of the installation was excellent.
Great.
Everything was working beautifully, but they were there until 1 o'clock in the morning. They had to leave. But they had to come back the next day
morning.
because they had to finish up a couple of other smaller items, but to finish it off. No problem. We were expecting them at around 9 in the morning. Glen got a phone call saying that their vehicle had blown up on the highway. They weren't going to be able to make it that day. They had to rent a vehicle and so on and so on. Okay, whatever.
Yep.
The stuff happens.
That happens.
They came the next day, I believe it was, finished everything up. Both of the gentlemen that were working on the job, very polite, very nice guys.
Okay.
And again, we were like, oh, cool. And they did a great job. Everything started up. There was no problems with the working of the equipment.
So signed, installation quickly. Took them a little bit longer, but everything kind of went off without a hitch there. There was a couple of tells or red flags, but but that wasn't realized until later.
Yes.
So then that company took the furnace and the air conditioner, and then they were
Nope, they only took the air conditioner. They removed the water heater
Yep.
and the air conditioner. The furnace stayed.
Okay.
Which was this? We didn't know why it had
And the
stayed.
furnace was still a rental.
Well,
It was supposed to be. We thought, from his explanation, that this heat pump, cooling and heating heat pump, replaced our furnace. And so when we went down, that's kind of weird. What's this heat pump do? I then looked up heat pump, and it needs a furnace.
Needs a furnace. Yeah.
And he didn't tell us that. He didn't explain anything about the products other than they were great and they were going to do this and this and this.
So you still had to pay for that as a rental?
yes. So that became another point of contention with Reliance because Reliance sold us their rental of the water heater, air conditioner, and furnace as a package. They had proof, Reliance had proof that the water heater was returned, but it took 6 weeks
Okay.
for them. And on the ticket that we got a copy of, there was proof that the water heater had been dropped off to Reliance. But Reliance had no record of the air conditioner being returned. So, of course, now we're in an argument with Reliance because we're paying for a rental for an air conditioner and a package deal for the furnace, the air conditioner, the water heater. They did take the water heater off because it was returned. But because there was no record of the air conditioner being returned, we had to continue. We're still paying for it now.
And the furnace.
And the furnace.
And the furnace.
So at what point did you realize you're screwed?
Scammed?
June 12th
Yeah.
Okay, June 12th.
of 2024.
All right, so tell us about that. What happened?
So I got a bill electronically from Reliance that is normal, but I noticed it's still the same amount. So I sent a text June the 12th to Dalbir Singh, who was the sales rep that came to our house, and explained, hey, just wondering what the status is with the water heater and the air conditioner.
And canceling of the contract.
And canceling of the contract. I just got our normal bill for the normal amount from Reliance. And I got a response from him that same day, I believe, saying that he was going to look into it.
Oh,
Okay,
he said,
great.
send me a copy of the
Send me a copy of the bill.
bill and I'll look after it.
So I call up the bill. I take a screenshot, text it over. 2 days later, still hadn't heard anything from him. So I text him again. Hi, Dalbir, just double checking what's happening and so on. No problem. I'll give you a call in 45 minutes. And I said, I can't take the call. Please call Glen. I'm on my way to work, but Glen is at home. He can take the call. I don't believe you got a call that day.
No.
I sent another text. Dalbir then followed up and called Glen, was all over it. He was going to look after it.
Send me any bills you get. We'll look after them.
Okay.
So I believe June 23rd, further follow-up. I'm asking Dalbir, okay, what's happening? Can you follow up again? What's going on with Reliance? I then get a response saying that he is no longer available. He will not be
can't be
available,
available
for
for the
2
next
months.
2 months.
For the next 2 months, and that now we have to deal directly with
He
KW's
was
customer
traveling,
service.
he said in
Yes.
his email. Or we have the text.
Okay.
That
Yep.
I'm traveling for the next 2 months. If you need anything, contact. Well, it turns out he was fired.
So as soon as you started to run into issues,
Yep.
We
and you
phoned.
contacted W,
Yeah.
you knew
Oh, something was
off.
stinking. And I immediately phoned their
Customer
customer
service.
service. I don't think we spoke to the same.
No,
we
when you
spoke to
phone,
somebody else originally. We ended up dealing with a fella,
Guri here.
Yeah.
Is his name.
The
we-
owner?
Nope.
No, he
Customer
was their
service
customer
representative.
service rep.
But here's the thing: when you phone their customer service line, you get an answering service,
Yeah.
and the answering service filters the information. They get your name and your phone number, what the issue is, and then they pass it on to whoever is going to deal with it. And so right from the very beginning, when you phone, you're already screened right then and there, which I know a lot of companies are doing that right now. But it makes it extra frustrating because now you have to wait for someone else to phone you back.
Yeah.
You don't know who it is that's going to call you back. They did. We started dealing. I don't think Guri was the first
No,
one.
he
There was
wasn't.
another gentleman. And by this time, this was the end of June. And then we started emailing correspondence July 1st or 2nd. I think it was July the 2nd.
Well, we had a contact. That's when we met
That's right.
Guri.
And, and then the correspondence began by email with one of their representatives. I just had his name. Anyhow. But each time we phoned in, we weren't sure who we were going to speak to because we couldn't contact the people that had phoned us back, the customer service reps.
Yeah.
We had no direct contact with them. Every time we called.
Do you think that the company? So what's it's called KW what?
Home Energy Services.
KW Home Energy Services. So there are a lot of these companies that the actual company is just a salesman, okay? And they don't really have the same expertise. Then they hire the furnace technician to install. Then they have a call service, which isn't really part of their company, but it's paid by them. And then they have a finance company.
And that's exactly what it was.
So realistically, you've got one company, but they're just contracting everything out to somebody else. In terms of specialization, there's nothing, and that's why there's not one person that can really fulfill all the questions, right? But sorry, go ahead. So
correspondence started by email with a couple of different customer service representatives. The first one, he was trying to be helpful. And again, we've kept all copies of these emails. But trying to get answers from them, like we're still getting billed. And at this point, we got a second bill.
Well, then we were still fighting
From
over the
Reliance.
$1,000 too.
Yes, because there was supposed to be a $1,000 rebate that we were supposed to receive within 30 days of signing the contract.
I had also phoned because at this point we were starting to freak a little bit. I phoned and talked to this fella Guri that I ended up speaking to many times, and I hope one day we can look at or listen to our phone conversations that they say that they taped.
yeah,
Because I originally asked him, tell me how we go about transferring when we move.
yeah.
And he said, I'll look into it and I'll let you know. So I phoned him a number of times. He never got back. He never told me. Eventually, after, I don't know, I guess it came on an email originally where they said that you can't transfer it.
Yeah.
And
And that's essentially when all hell broke loose
That's when
with
hell
us
broke
because
loose.
and at that time we were also the house was on the market.
yeah.
And so we started panicking quietly, but panicking, going like, okay. So when we first found out that it wasn't transferable, that's when we got notification from the finance company
Well, we phoned.
Glen
I
said-
phoned Vault, who is the finance company, and I asked them, why can't you make this transferable? You're not going to lose anything.
Yeah.
Well,
And he
no,
said-
that happened. The first sequence of events was you had contacted VaultPay, which is the finance company that KW uses for the equipment.
Spoke to Jason.
No, Ryan. His
Ryan?
name's
Oh,
Ryan.
really good guy, actually.
And Glen
Seemed
said,
anyway.
Glen phoned me and he said, okay, you should be receiving an email from a guy named Ryan at VaultPay detailing what we need to do to transfer the equipment. Great. I opened up the email and
that's right.
nearly
Yeah.
fell off my chair, and there's an invoice for $23,700 and something dollars. And all the color drained from my face. I'm at work. I phone Glen. What is happening? I said, we just received an invoice for $23,000.
The buyout.
The
Buyout.
buyout.
Plus
So-
the furnace that they had agreed at this point they were going to. KW agreed that they would pay out the
Okay.
$4,950 for the furnace.
But
Which is-
KW have refused to do that.
They originally, no, they asked for the invoice amount.
By
from
this time,
Reliance.
KW had admitted
That they
that
lost
they
it.
lost the air conditioner. And we were already in a bit of an argument with Reliance because Reliance was unwilling to separate the buyout for the air conditioner and just keep the furnace
because
as a
it was-
separate
because it was
package.
a
It's a package deal.
It was a package
and then
deal.
that price would go up.
Yes.
So we've been paying for, I don't know, 12 months, the monthly charge for appliance we don't have,
So how much is the Reliance?
$49.50 plus the $1,400 that we've paid since.
Well, the monthly
all
amount monthly rental amount for the air conditioner and the furnace is $146 even
For Reliance.
for Reliance. Now, when we contacted Reliance last fall about, what would be the buyout amount for the air conditioner and the furnace, Reliance got back to us through email, and we have the email, and they said the buyout amount for both pieces of equipment, and you have to do both pieces of equipment because it was rented as a package deal,
Yeah.
was $4,950, of which the intent was KW had asked us what the buyout amount was. In effect, admitting that they had lost the equipment and that they were willing to
They were willing
to pay for the buyout.
$4,900.
$4,950 for the missing air conditioner, but the existing furnace.
Yes.
Great. So while we got that in writing from Reliance, the buyout amount, we then forwarded that amount through email to our contact,
Guri.
at KW. They never responded to that by email, but they did confirm
Only
to
by
Glen
phone.
verbally
Yeah.
that they would pay that $4,950
2 installments.
in 2 installments.
And have they?
Never.
No.
And that's when they stopped answering our phone calls. We can't phone them.
So I think too, like that's important for everybody out here listening, is that, you know, when you do talk to somebody, I do believe it's nice to talk to somebody on the phone, okay? And talk to a real person and not just an
Me too.
answering service. But you need to be able to follow that up with an email just so you have a detailed record of proof. So if you notice Glenn and Laura here, like Laura had said it a few times here, and that's when we started corresponding through email, because they've done that because they realize that something's going wrong here, right? Had they have done that right from the beginning and had their the original sales rep put it in an email and say, listen, we'll sign the contract, you just put it in an email, everything that we've discussed, we're going to read it over, and then we're going to sign it, you'd probably be at a little different story, because now it's he said, she said. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then just a clarity for everybody watching out here, we have got right now, you're trying to save money on a monthly rental plan, okay? You are trying to make it beneficial for the new owners of your home to come in with a brand new AC, a brand new furnace, brand new water heater, HEPA filter. you get $1,000 rebate. They cancel the Reliance contracts and pay them out and deliver the appliances back to Reliance. As it stands right now, for the new HEPA filter, the new heating and cooling,
Tankless water heater.
and tankless water heater, how much is that?
$72.99 every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. So what, like you're $144 a month. Okay.
Correct.
Then from that, so you're supposed to pay $144 a month and save $86 from Reliance. So Reliance was how much a month?
Currently $146.
Yeah, but that was
It was original with the
before the KW.
for the package deal for the furnace, air conditioner, and the hot water heater. It was $186 a month.
186. Okay, so you're paying 144, 186. You're still paying 186.
No, paying
They took off
146 because
they
they
Took off the water heater.
The water heater
That
was returned.
That was returned. Okay.
Correct.
So you're paying essentially double.
yes.
You're not saving.
Oh,
Okay, and then you still have a buyout. Now, this is important for everybody out there. When we talk about transferable and assumption, so in real estate, you assume rental contracts if you can negotiate it. Okay, in this particular case, we negotiated the assumable contract or the transferable contract, as Laura talks about. So it was verbally communicated to them that you can transfer this contract. It's great. The new owner is going to have so much enjoyment of these products. But in reality, you can't. So he wasn't, we would call that in real estate negotiating in good faith. So he was not negotiating in good faith. And sometimes, in our industry, we've got contracts that are 8 pages, 10 pages, 20 pages. A lot of the times our customers, our clients rely on us to read those contracts. Okay. So we communicate and then they sign it. So it's the communication. If it's wrong or if they're meaningfully trying to deceive the client, it's easy to do. Okay, it's not.
Very.
So it's not for you guys. It happens a lot, and I see it a lot. Mm-hmm. So I just don't feel bad. And if somebody's out there, don't feel bad because this happens quite a bit. And in real estate here, rental appliances for us are always a little bit of a bone of contention, and we don't see that until after they're signed, right? And everybody says, "Well, it's new, it's great, it's good for the new owner," but we would say anywhere between 2 and 5% of furnace and air conditioners are rented. The majority of the time, they're owned. So most people go into a purchase and they look at that and say, "Well, everything else that we've seen is owned. How come we have to pay an extra $146, or in this case, double in order to have these?" And so water heaters are always pretty standard rentals in our area, and they're easy to assume, but it is difficult, and we did manage to do it, but it is difficult to get people to take over these. So if you guys are out there and you're contemplating that, you should call your realtor or call us. Call these guys, okay? I will give you their number.
Oh, yeah.
All right, and we can tell you the story, but just be cautious of that. Even for me, because we always get caught up in something, but usually if something's too good to be true,
it's too good to be true.
It's too good to be true. So currently, right now, as it stands for everybody watching, we have a buyout of the the transferable new contract, which isn't transferable, of $24,000, and then we have a buyout of the old contract at $4,900. Okay, so you're $29,000, $29,000 to deal with this. All right, and this, if you guys are here, I can feel the energy here. Glen's looking to choke somebody. I'm just trying to stay away from him. So it's very frustrating. Okay, and when you don't have an outlet. You have ombudsman, and we can go to the competition bureau or
we've gone to Ontario protection.
The other, the most frustrating part of all of this is not only really being scammed, but we have been on top of dealing with this since 2.5 weeks after it was installed.
The 12th
of June, correct? June.
Yeah.
So this has been ongoing this is not just all of a sudden now we're dealing with it. We submitted a huge complaint to Consumer Protection Act
That's
in October.
Okay.
And it took several weeks to actually get a response, but to speak to somebody live from Consumer Protection. They acknowledged receipt of our complaint. I believe it was a month later, we got confirmation that they've opened up a file and that we would be assigned a case officer.
And we have a good case.
And that we had a very good case.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, we had 38 pages of texts, emails, PDF documents, you name it, that we submitted as part of the case file to Consumer Protection Act. Now, they act as mediators.
Yeah.
They agreed that we had a case. And when you look up Consumer Protection Act in under ontario.ca, the government website, it states in there that if you have been either solicited by phone or by somebody at your front door, in other words, we did not seek this. We were solicited, and then you sign a contract, but you've been misled, you've been misinformed. Everything that we're talking about everything.
Every single miss there is.
Every miss, yeah.
So finally, we were assigned a case officer
Helen.
her name is Helen, in January, and then our correspondence began with her. She then, on our behalf, submitted documentation. We also had to copy and inform by a formal letter to KW that we had submitted a case to Consumer Protection Act. So from October, KW knew that we had gone and done this. And there's correspondence that we had said, we will, unless you guys make this transferable and come to the table and help us out with this, we will submit a complaint to the Consumer Protection Act. So KW had been warned long before that happened.
What did they say?
They sent us a copy of Del Singh's termination letter.
So that's the original sales rep that sold you the products.
Yeah.
So
that actually was a response from the lawyer.
The lawyer at KW.
So he was terminated.
Yeah.
Right? And then in the termination, what did the termination, like why was he terminated?
From their quote, had been numerous other complaints from KW customers about his conduct.
His conduct, yeah.
This is a letter that finally, a letter from KW's lawyer that was submitted February 28th to the Consumer Protection Act, to our contact in the case officer.
It's funny. It says that in the termination letter, but above that, the lawyer says, our sales rep would have never told you it's transferable.
But it says that he would.
But it says that there's numerous complaints from
that's why he was fired.
That's why he was fired.
Yes. So there's really, for KW, there's really no accountability for their rep who has deceived you or misled you by any means. Okay, and then the Consumer Protection, they can't. They can pass judgment, but they can't force anybody to pay reparations or anything like that. That has to be done through small claims.
Right. We're going to go. We're through Chris Wood. He has a lawyer friend who specializes in these cases. Yeah. And so he's passed our information on to him, and we haven't yet talked to him yet. We're still waiting. So
that's interesting too, because if you have a lawyer that just specializes in cases like this,
there you go.
Just imagine how many cases there are.
You're right.
That's crazy. That's
the benefit of submitting something to Consumer Protection Act was
the judgment.
The judgment, but something official is on file about this company.
Yes.
And our case officer had said, legally, there's nothing that we can do other than they're like the mediator. Step. They become the mediator. In correspondence after we received the letter from KW's lawyer, essentially stating they never do transferable contracts. That is just not company policy. And also stating that Dalbir Singh was subsequently fired for so many complaints from other customers. We were told by the lawyer we had signed this contract in good faith. The company acted in good faith. And in our response, I used that. I said, we signed in good faith because of misrepresentation from your sales rep telling us that our contract was transferable, which we specifically asked, knowing full well that we would be selling our home. And we told that to the sales rep. And I even explained further, I said, it would have made absolutely no financial sense for us to sign a contract that was not transferable, knowing
We're retiring.
we were selling our
moving.
house.
And I'm shocked that they can even sell contracts like that. Like, you know, people nowadays are moving more frequently, right? Like, you guys have been in your house for how long?
25 years.
25 years, okay? So that's an anomaly right now. Like, normally it's every 5 to 10 years, okay? So, and if it's a first-time territory, it's like, okay, 3 years, 4 years maybe, and then we're moving up, right? So that shocks me that they could even have people that are happy purchasing these products without a transferable
20
warranty.
years. You're stuck with them for 20 years.
That's right. So the scam is that they downplay the transfer, okay? And then they say, well, now you've got to pay us out. So you've got a furnace and an air conditioner and a water heater that might cost $10,000 or $12,000. And then what's happening is in a few years, you're stuck, you've got to buy it out. You have to pay, in this case, $24,000, but now because of the Reliance contract at $29,000 or $28,900, and that's the scam, right? And I think that a lot of people don't have the resources, right, or the grit. I'm talking about her.
Yeah, no.
Okay, to fight this. Okay, and that's what's happening is like they almost, you know, they can look online and see that the house is for sale. They can look online and see the house is sold, and in their heads, all they know is a lot of these rental appliances are registered against the property, so the equity in the property essentially pays it out, and they're just banking on that, and the homeowner's saying, screw it, it's not worth it, just pay them out. And I'm shocked that you could have a rental company, an appliance company with furnace, ACs, water heaters, HEPA filters, whatever, and not have I just can't believe that there's anybody out there that's happy with this.
Well,
service.
I was on the phone with Reliance on Friday, and I was most unhappy. So I was trying to negotiate with them and say, you know, and they had the case file from when we contacted them last fall about the missing air conditioner. So they had all of the notes. And I said, look, we've done our due diligence. We've continued to pay for the air conditioner. That is no longer in our home. And what we're looking for is, can we buy out the remainder of the value of the air conditioner? The furnace is still here. We've continued to pay for the furnace, but and the water heater was returned and everything like that. And I kept getting the same response. Well, it's a package deal. I said, I understand it is a package deal. Can you not press a button somewhere on your computer?
Circumstances.
So they said the only way, well, we can give you a 20% discount. I said, how am I supposed to sell a 20% discount to the new buyers of the house
You have to buy a new air conditioner.
when they're going to have to buy a new air conditioner?
Yeah.
But because you guys are unwilling to separate the package deal between the furnace and the air conditioner, how am I going to sell that? So I said, so let me get this straight. You want us, in order to get out of this contract, we have to buy out the furnace and the air conditioner that we don't have, but we've continued to pay for it, only for you guys to turn around with the new homeowners and start a whole new rental.
That's right.
I said, that's quite a revenue stream for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not really their.
No, but
Yeah, and I get that too. Like Reliance, they like, I guess, I mean, through their rental process, they've been relatively
Yeah, no, they were.
They've been very
excellent.
good.
okay. Good.
I got a
So-
phone call Friday to come and do a maintenance on our furnace and air conditioner.
Okay, so there are so I mean there are companies out there that are, you know, legitimate and trustworthy. I mean we like, I'm always cautious. I mean, it is a business, right? So the revenue stream, that's why they're in business.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, sometimes extenuating circumstances, you wish that, like, you guys have been duped, right?
Big time.
And for them, I mean, yeah, it would be nice if they could see that, So, okay, so going forward, so the recourse is that right now you've got lawyers involved, which is another expense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what may have to happen is if you sell the house, all right, you may have to continue this claims against this company.
But even if we win, KW could then come in and take their air conditioner, hot water tank, and HEPA filter. So now the owners of the house are with nothing.
That's right.
Well, technically, no, because in order for us
You'd
to,
have to pay
We
it
have
out.
to
we'd
pay
have to
it-
pay
we
it
have
out.
to pay it out.
And then that
Yes.
equipment technically belongs to us.
But I guess so. But the thing is too to take from this is nothing's happening. Like we're talking June 2024. We're coming up on a year. We're April right now, 2025. Nothing is happening quick, and there's still no end in sight. Like there's no light at the end of the tunnel
No,
right now.
Nothing.
No.
Does this company have any? Did you know anything else about the company? Do they have any other judgments? Or I guess you'll know that when you talk to the lawyer that specializes in this type of stuff.
Yeah, we'll find. I've tried to look up as much as I can on the internet, and there's not really that much available. I tried to find the president of KW, and I can't find the president.
Yeah.
So
And that's probably done on purpose, right? And I wonder too at these companies, like, maybe they just close up shop and open up as YW.
they have a number of locations.
Do they?
Yeah. They have one in I think it's in Etobicoke, one in Kitchener. They have a few locations.
Wow.
The finance company, Vault Pay, that the contract actually is with, like our payments come out from a company called Vault Pay. The gentleman that we spoke to there was actually quite sympathetic
Yeah, and trying to be helpful.
and trying to be quite helpful. Their hands are tied in that they obviously finance KW so that KW can buy all of this equipment and then
course.
turn around and sell it to so on. So, I asked Vault Pay, I said, so how do you guys make money? And he said, well, our interest that we charge on the monthly payments. Okay, that makes sense. But they were sympathetic, but really there was very little they could do to help us because our contract was with KW.
I
Yes,
even
they're the
offered to
finance
pay
company.
to get the new owner's credit rating, whatever they needed for us to change over. I said I'd pay for that.
Yeah.
I'll pay for that. And they said no, they got to go through. You have to go through KW.
You have to go through KW because, like, KW has so basically KW will sell you the appliances.
Mm-hmm.
The finance company pays KW, so they get paid.
Right.
Yes.
And then the finance company then charges you guys
Charges
on a
us.
monthly payment.
Yeah.
But you guys, I mean, the easy way around this is for KW to say, okay, well, let's just change this contract to make it transferable or assumable, and then everything's okay.
We even offered, Glen and I even offered in numerous emails, we would pay the legal fees for the transaction just to make it transferable.
Yeah.
And we even went so far as to, plead our case. Like, how does this not benefit you guys financially in a good way? Like, all we're asking is literally you legally just change the name of the contract to the new homeowners.
Or even their reputation, right? Like so the way I look at this is, I can understand if the sales rep came in and told you all of this and then you guys just didn't think about it and that's it. But these questions were specifically asked at the time. We have a sales rep that misinformed and was fired as a result from numerous other cases. So for KW to come in and give a one-off and say, you know what, we can understand the situation. We know how you guys are feeling. We had to fire this employee as a result of too many complaints. And now, you know what we'll do? We're going to do you a favor. We don't normally do this. Let's make it transferable. And
Because there's
that
no-
would solve this problem.
You don't want anybody.
They
to
don't
get out.
lose
Yeah, they
anything
don't get out.
financially
Yeah.
by doing it. And even Helen, the case officer through Consumer Protection Act, just yesterday, Glen was
phoned
on
her
the phone with her,
yesterday.
and she said, I don't understand why they're being so difficult about this. She said it's chattel. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense that they are being that they're not willing to make this transferable. It doesn't cost them anything. Yeah. At the end of the day, they continue to get their payment, which is how we were sort of pleading our case.
So but then what's happening is by enforcing it, they're doubling their money, right? Because they already get paid from that finance company. They're already paid. The interest is, you guys pay the interest from the company. Yeah. Yeah. And now that, like, why would they? Mm-hmm. Right?
No, it's
been
a lot of sleepless nights over this.
Oh, yes.
So let's just get into that a little bit if we could. Like, how are we up for time?
46 minutes.
Perfect. Oh. Emotionally, I always, when I talk to my wife, we're always like, okay, let's pick our battles, because I always, it's a lot more energy to be angry at somebody or something. How is this? Like, we know Glen's on the couch. Okay, we know this.
I put myself on the couch. I still am. I am so pissed.
Like, how do you feel though? Like, you feel like.
Well, I remember that night. Advantage. I remember the night when Dalbeer.
She should have whacked me upside the head and say, "Get out of here" to that guy. I should have done that too, because again, that look he gave me when I told him I'm retiring and we're moving, there was a second of should I or shouldn't I look in his face, and then he just turned and said, "Oh, absolutely," and then from that point, I
remember that
so
night.
Mad at me for not picking up, because she didn't like this guy.
Sitting there at 9:30 on a Friday night at our dinner table, I was just, first of all, I was really irritated. Like, I don't want to spend my Friday night doing this. So I'm looking at him going, like, why did you accept an appointment? Anyway, here we are.
Well, he was supposed to be there.
And he's Dalbeer, he's hammering away, and he's talking fast, and he's writing numbers down, and I'm hammering the questions because my gut is saying, this smells. This just really smells. And I remember looking up at Glen. I was sitting down, and Glen was standing behind me. And Glen's like, it's a good deal. And I remember looking up at Glen, and I was like, but I don't know. I'm just not sure about this. So Dalbeer had said, let me explain it to you again. This is how you're going to save money. And he did. He walked us through it. And I'm a bit of a skeptic. I feel after the fact, I wish I had just really put my foot down. Of course, 20/20 hindsight. But I was already feeling like 9:30 on a Friday night. Why is this sales rep at our table?
No, part owner, not sales rep at that point.
He doesn't even sell real estate.
But it's an awful feeling. Yes, I was angry with Glen for, how did you not see? How did you not see through this? Yeah. But then also anger at myself, because at the time I was like, something stinks. I don't like this, and I wish I'd had more courage just to say to Glen, even in front of the sales rep, I don't want to do this right now, because I was the one that actually signed. It had to go in one of our names. Yeah. So
or wait, she was sitting to take the night.
Yeah, that's what we should.
Cooling off period.
Yes, because he didn't go through really any of the numbers. He just said, "Well, you're going to save $86 a month."
What he did focus on too was, he said, it's a $24,000 value. That's the value of the equipment that you're getting in your house. Yeah. So we're thinking, oh, this is cool. We're also thinking,
it's the value of the buyout.
Those words were not specified.
Yeah.
And do we kick ourselves? Yes, because again, in hindsight, there were red flags. Yeah, even if they were little, there were red flags all over the place. But we did ask the right questions.
Yes.
But because of how that was sold to us, and especially as Glen said in the beginning of this podcast, he walked in, Dalbeer walked in and said he was part owner, da-da-da. That gives credence to, when you think you're dealing with somebody that has some...
I should have asked for a business card.
Or multiple locations, right? Like, I mean, it all adds to it, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's right now, there's no resolution. Okay,
No.
you're still in the thick of it right now, and you still have to figure things out. Now, if somebody's out there and you're going to give advice to somebody else that's thinking about a rental appliance, okay, what's the advice that you're going to give them?
Get the contract. Don't sign anything. Think about it for a few days. Ask somebody about it.
Read the fine print.
Yeah, read
do
the fine
your
print.
research with the company. Verify in writing. Have it written somewhere on the contract. If you want it transferable, specify what transferable, what the company's definition of transferable is, and what you're hoping to, you as the consumer, what transferable means to you.
Yes.
To us, it meant we could take this contract,
Cancel all
transfer
of
it
the
to the new
contracts.
homeowner.
That's what he said. The first line he wrote, we'll cancel all Reliance's
which is what
contracts.
it means, which is what transferable means.
Right.
Right.
And that's what I thought as soon as he wrote that. The first line, I will cancel all Reliance contracts.
Yeah. So, but when you guys, like, I mean, you've had experience with rentals before, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And Reliance, I mean, I know Reliance quite intimately. I've read their contracts. I do know that they do everything's transferable
Yep.
It
in
is.
those
Everything's
contracts.
Yes.
Now, I've run into other companies like KW where they're not transferable, or there's conditions on the transfer, right? One thing's paid out. But the issue, even in real estate, is some of these other, like, I would call them, like, second tier rental or third tier rental companies, where they kind of pop up, okay, and then all of a sudden there's issues with them in terms of sales. So even in Rockwood, in the new subdivision, they had an issue with the rental water heaters, and then they were all registered against the property, and the lawyers at the start were having issues because they couldn't transfer the properties without buying these out, or at least figuring the problem. And that one they were actually able to transfer. They were just registered wrong. But it is clear, if it's not a reputable company, then who's ever purchasing the product, right, despite the cost, should do a little more research, or at least get it in writing.
Yep.
That, and what I also learned through Consumer Protection Act on their website is, yes, similar to real estate, there is a cooling off period of 10 days from the time of signing the contract, that you can cancel at any time within that 10-day
For any
cooling off
reason.
period for any reason.
And that's a law in Ontario.
So, but further to that, according to Consumer Protection Act, within the first year of signing the contract, you can also, if you have been misled, if you have been misinformed, you can legally cancel your contract. I did. I tried to cancel the contract in writing to KW. And I said in my letter, my formal letter to KW, copied Consumer Protection Act, I would like to exercise our right to cancel this contract immediately. Please come and pick up your equipment from our home. Otherwise, please make this contract transferable. That was written in October, early October, I believe. Never heard from the company.
Nothing.
Never registered anything. So I did try to cancel. I did try to have the equipment removed from our home.
So that's interesting. So anybody watching, so it is a law that you have 10 days, a cooling off period. It's similar to new home sales.
Yep.
So then you guys, at that point, if you had a red flag during that time, so Glenn, even if you don't sleep on it, and you get caught up in the moment and you sign the contract, the next day, if you're feeling uneasy about it, you can cancel it up to 10 days.
Correct.
Yep.
Maybe that's why they were so quick to get
They
your
were
stuff
so
in.
quick, and he was phoning us constantly. Well,
Yeah.
hey, what can you do? And
Yeah.
let me do this, and here's my phone numbers, and he was all over us for 10 days, and then he disappeared.
So 10 days, and then they have up to 12 months if you've been misled to prove it. Now that's like in reality, it's posing. I mean, in theory, it's a great concept, but in reality, it's hard to be able to prove being misled. So
Exactly.
If you still sign the contract again, would you ask them? Maybe another one is put it in an email. Like ask them to put in an email to you, so then you have some sort of proof that.
I
this
would
is a
actually, if
discussion.
it were me, I would specify it and have the sales rep or whoever you're dealing with that you're going to sign the contract with, I would have them write it right there on the contract and specifically say, if you're looking for a transferable contract, specifically write it out on the contract before you sign it. Yes, it is transferable. What does transferable mean?
Yes.
What does it mean to this company?
Yeah.
And what does it mean to you? And
Or
negotiate.
circle that in the contract.
100%.
And initial it.
100%.
Or have them send us a contract. His contract was all handwritten.
Yeah.
It would have been, I think if we would have been able to get something sent to us or a more formal type structure that we could have read through, because he was going through this thing so fast. Well, this is what you're going to do here, and this is what we're going to do here, and I'm going to throw in a HEPA filter for nothing, and adding all kinds of numbers. But
Because you never got your $1,000.
no, we had to fight for the $1,000.
We did. It
Oh,
took
you did.
90 days.
90 days to
and that
get
was fighting. And you guys owed us this. It's on the contract. It's written right here. It's-
$149 installation fee that was. Don't worry about it. I'll look after.
We had to pay it.
It's written on the contract. I'll look after the. I'll look after. the
$149 waived.
No, can't
We
do
still
that.
had to pay for it, and we have yet to be.
And it says waived.
Yeah, it says waived. Yeah.
You know, and again, okay, KW, look at your own contract.
Yeah.
You guys are in breach of contract as well
Yeah.
for this item. You didn't return the air conditioner.
Everything that
Yes.
he wrote didn't happen.
Well, and I mean, they're almost forcing you, like, they're almost taking advantage of the fact that a lot of people are like, is it worth the stress? And is it worth the calling a lawyer?
Guri, we're talking with that. I was so mad at him the last time I spoke with him, and it was when he told us, okay, we'll do something. We'll give you two
This was
installments.
probably October last year.
I was fuming, and I said, look, I don't care if this cost me $100,000. I'm coming after you guys.
Yeah.
And he said, you can try, but you're not going to win. And that just, I went from here to here.
You couldn't see at that point.
No, I was,
Because the whole
And
thing.
from
You
that
can try,
point on,
but you're not going to win.
all we
And-
got
and that
now
goes to
is
show you.
email. We get email. If we get through, we go directly to a mailbox, and then we never hear from anybody.
And that statement right there shows that they have this isn't the first time.
No.
It's not the first
No.
Glen to cross their path.
No, and that's when I lost it. That was not a good day.
Nope. Yeah.
So then I guess, we've gone through advice. So, I mean, the last question I had for you guys, how, like, we talked a little bit about it here, though, but I guess, how has this changed how you handle contracts? And, how do you move on from this experience?
I give the contract to Laura.
No, I actually, I remember you saying to me when we were signing the contract with you to list our house
Yeah.
with you, I remember you asking me, did you read through the contract? And I remember kind of looking at you. And to your point that you said earlier, most people rely on you
Yeah.
to know the contract and to educate your customer.
Yeah.
And
We read.
and
the
I
contract.
remember you had said to me,
Damn.
you said, you really should read through your contracts.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know
And
you read.
we did read the contract.
So, but since then, you've kind of sat here with that comment, but then also with this experience. Again, the contract itself was that we signed with KW was pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
The catch was that the information that we were given verbally encouraged us to sign in good faith.
Mm-hmm.
The contract itself, as I said, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
But nowhere at any point did the sales rep explain to us that we were getting into a 20-year financial commitment
Of $24,000.
of $24,000. That never came up. It's worth $24,000. The contract we signed was for 2 years, 4.99% interest, here's your payment every 2 weeks.
Yeah. What he was writing, but how he was explaining what he was writing,
Was totally different.
totally different.
Yeah.
I even offered through email to, we'll buy out the contract right now for the 2 years that this contract says.
Yeah.
For 2 years, 24 months, $72.99 every 2 weeks, 4.99%. I said, we'll pay out that contract.
So initially it was only 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. It says on the contract, 2 years.
That's when we found out from Vault Pay.
That it's a 20-year
It's a
commitment.
20-year
And it turns
lease.
out the 2 years was we can renegotiate the terms
Yes.
in 2 years. But that's not how you explained it. But that's what it means on the contract.
So, and I guess that's it. So read the contract, despite what is being said. Okay, because we do, like, innately we do want to trust people, right?
Of course.
Like my business is built on that, right? Like, you know, people want to know that you know what you're talking about. They want to know that they can trust you. But developing trust is that process. Like if I say, you know, if I explain the contract and then you read the contract and it's exactly how I've explained it, now we know, right? But reading, to me, reading the contract is really important, right? My even growing up, I remember my dad like reading. He'd sit there and read this contract, and I'm like, "What are you doing? That just sign it," and you know. But
All the new home stuff that we're going through right now, every contract.
you're reading.
I've read every contract.
Good. Well, and then it's advice too that you can pass on the kids, right, and everything like that.
Oh,
They're
they've seen.
They're gonna phone you, and I'm always like, this is one thing I'm always cautious of too, is if you do a great job for people, right, they may tell a handful of people. Okay, if you do a horrible job for people,
Tell
that
everybody.
number multiplies and multiplies and multiplies. So I'm sure you probably can't tell how many people you've told this
Everybody.
story to. This is going to be a whole nother audience, okay? And then for you guys, okay, how do you move forward then? You're hell-bent on...
We're going to get out of the contract one way or another.
Okay.
So we'll...
Even, no, we will. We know that we have a good case.
Yeah.
Financially, you know, it stings. It really stings. If it means that we have to buy out the contract to be able to move forward, then we have no choice. That doesn't mean that we will stop then and there fighting this. We won't.
It makes it harder for us to win, though, if we pay it out, according to
Yes.
the lawyer.
Yeah.
Because how does that look?
Yeah.
But I don't want the new people moving into our house to have this burden either.
And
So
they've
it's-
kind of got you, like, it's extortion in a way too,
Yeah.
right? Because, you know, you can't sell unless you deal with this issue,
Yep.
right? So...
Yeah.
Okay,
It's-
well that's you know what? That's some good advice. I've answered all my questions, okay, which is good. But like I said before, it's a cautionary tale. We do know that some rental companies are legitimate, are trustworthy,
Sure.
and they are an alternative for people that, you know, they can't afford the payments. Glenn, you mentioned before, you like the fact that they had the maintenance plans and all that stuff. So there are perks to it, right? And different real estate markets will dictate different ways of dealing with it. But in this particular case, I mean, it's a scam.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
We do appreciate you coming on here because it's not easy. But when I do these things here, I always tell people, if I can get one person to take one, you know, golden nugget from anything that we've talked about, we've made some change around here. And this will go a long way to help other people so they don't get in the situation that you guys have. Because if they're phoning you, they're phoning how many other people in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks, guys.
No.
Thank you. Thank you very
Hopefully
much.
it helps.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And we're done.